Now this is a classic. TTT 67th Way is one of the most popular maps for the Garry's Mod game mode Trouble in Terrorist Town. It takes place in a suburban area that's been completely walled in with concrete, littered with hidden passageways that lead you to an underground bunker area, and a small tunnel that leads you to an isolated farm area, with a sniper's watchtower for some reason. It's quite a strange area if you think about it for more than 2 seconds, but for the TTT game mode, that doesn't matter, as people are way more focused on the gameplay. Pretty much the most defining gameplay feature of the map is this two-way road separating the main surface area, leading to a giant tunnel on each side. On its own, it's not very exciting, and makes for an area with very little cover from snipers. But 67th Way decided to truly innovate its gameplay in this field by introducing road safety to TTT. If you don't look both ways before you cross, you might just end up experiencing one of the most embarrassing ways to die in the entire game mode. Moving to the underground area, you'll find a traitor tester, the most beneficial map-made device for innocents in the entire game mode. But getting to it ain't that easy. The only way in and out of the tester room is by going through a trap that traitors have the ability to activate from the safety of the traitor room. The poor soul caught in the trap will be helplessly stuck as water rises from the ground, eventually submerging the entire room and forcing any occupants to drown. All while leaving the other terrorists that had already made it to the tester room completely stuck until the trap finishes, making for the perfect opportunity for a C4 to be planted right next to that area. It's a fun map to play. It can be found in the map rotation of plenty of Gmod servers, and has even been ported to other games with TTT game modes, like Pavlov VR and even Roblox. But 67th Way is best known today for arguably creating one of the most prolific map layouts in TTT history. Nowadays, you can find quite a few other TTT maps using this 4-house layout, pretty much making 67th Way the Dust 2 of TTT, I guess. On top of that, custom edits of 67th Way itself are pretty much everywhere on the workshop. You'll find Minecraft version, after Christmas version, after unofficial edit, after There are so many unofficial versions of this map that it's actually kinda difficult to come across the original versions made by Defebs, known at the time as Curious McNugget. Despite this, the original map has also been memorialized into Gmod history in a fairly unusual way. Heading to the Gmod Steam store page and looking at the only TTT screenshot here, you'll find one taken by Facepunch artist Max of S2D. And while it may not be immediately obvious, this screenshot was unmistakably taken on 67th Way. It's easily one of the most influential TTT maps ever made, and one of my personal favourites. Okay, that's cool and all. But what's this about? After the popularity of 67th Way, a sequel seemed like an obvious next step for Nugget. He announced its creation and discussed its features in a Reddit AMA out of all places, and it sounded like it was going to be even more grand than 67th Way, with 2 roads, more than 5 buildings, and an expansive underground section. However, it was never meant to be. When I first came across the story of this lost sequel, TTT 23rd Street, it had been nearly 10 years of radio silence, with no new information about the map publicly available anywhere. Lost to time, just like Nostromo, and many, many other maps. So, to understand where it went, I got in contact with Nugget, hoping that he could give me a glimpse of the full picture. The full picture being this. You might see someone's first map in all of its unsealed glory, but I see the beginning of great things here. This is GM Building Corner, the first map ever made by Nugget. You can still find it in archives of the Toy Box, the short-lived precursor to the Steam Workshop. Before this, he had only really opened Hammer to screw around in it, so this was his first attempt at a map designed to be released into the wild. He made 3 versions of Building Corner in the span of a few months, which are pretty easy to tell apart. For his first map, it's not all that bad. You can even see some aspects that carried over to 67th Way, like how this secret underground area is decorated with dev textures, or how the houses kept a similar design with paths, fences, and stairs. One of the main selling points for Nugget when picking up Gmod for the first time was the ability to build forts out of props using the fizz gun and set up NPC battles using them. So when he discovered that making custom maps for Gmod was as simple as loading up Hammer and blocking out to your heart's content, he saw it as a way to allow those fort battles to be enacted with actual players. Sure, you could always build those forts out of props in a multiplayer sandbox server, but then this would happen. As he put it, maps are more eternal. Now, he got into making maps slightly after his zombie survival phase had ended, and had he got into making maps in Hammer a bit earlier, we might have seen ZS 67th Way instead. But, around the time he actually started to learn Hammer, someone told him about the game mode Trouble in Terrorist Town, which had been officially added into the game less than a year prior. He went to check it out on a server called Total Nonstop Gaming, and it was love at first sight. He began to frequent TNS, and eventually ended up meeting someone called Red Cow. Red Cow was quite a prominent mapper, and had made several TTT maps at that point, including Shipping Center, Dig Down, Cloverfield, and Concentration. He also made several tutorials on TTT mapping, which were very hard to come by back in those days. Needless to say, this inspired Nugget to give TTT mapping a go, and Red Cow ended up being very supportive of this effort, helping Nugget out with ideas for the map. In fact, Red Cow actually masterminded what would end up being the most iconic aspect of the map. And the deadliest. Nugget initially thought that he was ridiculous for suggesting moving cars that could run people over. But not only did Red Cow say it was possible, he even demonstrated to Nugget how it could be done. And just like that, 67th Way's defining feature became a reality. If you look in the credits room on the final map, you can find a special thanks to Red Cow and a shout out to TNS. So the next time you end up roadkill on this map, give thanks to Red Cow for making it all possible. As for the rest of the map, 67th Way was largely inspired by DM Richland, a Half-Life 2 deathmatch map which Nugget enjoyed playing on TTT, and one which served as a thematic inspiration for his upcoming TTT map. But what was this urban Richland-inspired map to be called? I don't know. How about the street that Nugget lived on at the time? Yeah, the name 67th Way is technically a dox, but good luck finding the exact 67th Way that he lived at. Those stupid Americans aren't too good at unique street names, unlike ours. On February the 21st, 2011, Nugget released the first version of 67th Way and posted it to the Zombie Master forums. The map garnered a very positive reception in the replies, especially regarding the hilarity of the terrorists being splattered by moving cars, and many remarked that their server's player base couldn't stop voting for the map, although some commenters found the cars painful. Due to the map's positive reception, there wasn't really a need to fix what was broken, and the map only really saw fairly minor updates. Speaking of which, there are 3 official versions of 67th Way. Now, we'll get into the unofficial craziness shortly, but here's a quick rundown on the canon maps. Version 1 released along with the ZMF post on February the 20th, 2011. There are 2 things about this version that are really cursed. For one, the main basement ladder just doesn't exist yet. You can use the 2 secret drop-downs as per usual, but the only way up or down is through the house entrance here. Also, once you get down into the basement and enter the traitor room, you'll find absolutely no way to escape, other than the door that you just came through, unless you set a teleporter beforehand. It wouldn't stay like this for long though, as 4 days later on February the 24th, version 2 added a teleport exit out of the tea room, shifted this wall to the side of it, added another door out of the courtyard here, and made this skylight open automatically as you go up the ladder. And 3 days later, on February the 27th, version 3 added the iconic basement ladder here, made the traitor tester breakable, and added this entire room full of exit options for the tea room. The idea of a V4 was briefly floated in his Reddit AMA, but he didn't seem to care that much about the suggestions proposed for it. After V3 had released, he was pretty much entirely satisfied with the map in its current state and wasn't planning on working on it any longer. That wouldn't matter though, as in another comment he remarks that he spotted a server running an unofficial version 4. I wonder what that is all about, he says, completely clueless about what would happen to his map. You've got V4, V5, V5 2014, V6, V7, V9, V14, V14.1, V15, V9001, Christmas 67th Way, Minecraft 67th Way, Fixed version, Dragos version, Sucks version, Quack version? Servers got in on the fun too, GFL version, Dinkelberg's version, Remaster, Remake, Rework, CSS 68th Way? Look at this mess. I mean, map edits are inevitable with any kind of community map, but do we really need 3 different Minecraft versions alone? Each of these edits tries to do their own thing, but there's some common changes that have become general consensus between these edits over time. Priority number 1, wacky shit. A lot of them have this weird mumbo-jumbo above the basement ladder with a suicide room, an alternate vent passage that appears once the tester is destroyed, and most of them fuck with the tea room in some way. Some are subtle, while others go completely insane with it. Priority number 2, get rid of the barn. Just delete it. It's too far away from the rest of the map, and mostly just ends up as a time waster. Alternatively, make the barn at least easier to get to, either by shortening the pathway or making another one. Priority number 3, modern graphics. 67th Way is old enough to legally play Fortnite now, and as such, it still looks like a Counter-Strike source map more than anything. No worries though, we can color correct and retexture our way to a much better looking map. A few of them have also taken it a step further and completely remodeled certain areas to look better. There are so many different versions to pick from, with so many unique combinations of changes borrowed and adapted from other versions mixed with their own new set of changes, and frankly the best version is entirely down to your personal opinion. Has Nugget seen any of these? Not really. He found it hilarious that there were Minecraft versions being made, and quite liked the overgrown aesthetic of 67th Way rework. But overall, he thought that it was great that the map had enough of an impact on people to the point that they'd want to iterate and build upon it. Officially, however, V3 was the end point for 67th Way. But it almost wasn't the end for Nugget's TTT mapping career as a whole. The first signs of something new came a few weeks after the release of 67th Way, on March the 18th, 2011, with 2 screenshots posted to his Steam profile depicting a new map called TTT Valley. This map would be dropped pretty quickly, and these 2 screenshots would remain the only 2 screenshots. Then, just over a year later, Nugget started posting screenshots of another new map. Quote, TTT 23rd Street, a work in progress. Motivated entirely by, wouldn't it be cool lol, Nugget had begun work on the sequel to 67th Way, with double the roads and a lot more space for buildings. And in case you're wondering, 23rd Street was just a name that rolled off the tongue, not named after anywhere in particular. Over the next 2 months, he'd post more progress updates, filling out that empty space with a warehouse, an office building, an underground area, and a restaurant called El Palo de Diablo.
Everyone is welcome but a trader at El Pollo de Diablo.
Oh, sorry, thanks man. Then came the announcement. On June the 21st, he posted AMAs to the TTT and Gmod subreddits in order to answer questions about 67th Way and to promote 23rd Street. He touted the map as having between 5 to 7 unique buildings, an expanded underground area, and 4 cars between the 2 roads. He even went into a design goal he had with the map, where innocents would be forced to grab most of their guns underground, in theory leading to more close quarters encounters. Additionally, he decided that the tester just wasn't worth the bother. Good. The Steam screenshots would continue on August the 10th, showing an expanded look at the underground and a hotel building at the opposite end of the map. From here on out though, things started to really slow down. The next set of screenshots wouldn't be posted until January the 20th, 2013, and then 4 months later on April the 21st, he posted another screenshot showing a second floor to the restaurant. However, this would be the final time that TTT 23rd Street was ever seen publicly. So, what happened? To sum it up, something akin to Burnout, but not quite. Nugget found that the last 20% of the map was the toughest to complete. It mainly comprised of optimization and bug fixing, and with a map as big as 23rd Street, there was a lot of that to go through. Eventually, he found himself working on the map less and less, until one day, he just stopped altogether. From there, storage upgrades and general file mismanagement led to him completely losing the map's files, making the map, officially, lost media. The few that still knew about the map and went out looking to recover it would contact Nugget and leave disappointed when they found out that he'd completely lost the files, including me. I found the Reddit AMAs around 3 years ago now, leading me down the rather anticlimactic rabbit hole that you've just seen. Nugget didn't have the map anymore, and that was that. The end of the story. There's just one extra detail to cover though. One day, I was talking about the map with Yashimir, the former owner of Questionable Ethics TTT. He told me that Nugget wasn't the only one to have had a copy of 23rd Street, and that in fact, Nugget had actually given him a copy to put on his server back in 2014. We are so back. According to Yash's recollection, he came across the AMAs around the time that QE was starting up, and added Nugget on Steam to ask him how the map was coming along. Nugget told him that he hadn't worked on it for around a year by that point, and had lost the VMF for it. But he still had the BSP on hand at least, and so gave it to Yash for playtesting on the server. However, in 2015, the map was removed from the server because it didn't play all that well. Fast forward to the current day, and Yash doesn't have a copy on him, nor did any of the surviving QE backups, which left only one option. The map could have potentially survived in the files of someone who had connected to QE and played on 23rd Street in the few months that it was on there. It was a long shot, but frankly, there weren't any other options by this point, and besides, we'd stayed in touch with a good few former members who would be more than willing to help with the search. Hey guys.
It's off.
Man, get the fuck out of here.
Fuck off.
Alright. So, the search was on. I quickly compiled all the existing 23rd Street screenshots and posted it to the TTT Discord server, just in case anyone in there happened to recognize the map. Turns out, there was one ex-QE player in there that did. Reiner. Rena? I don't know. He said he remembered playing the map back in the day, and that he'd check his old laptop when he was able to get to it. That's one lead at least. However, asking people directly went a bit worse. A few people remembered it, but shockingly, nobody seemed to have bothered backing up their Gmod folder from 8 years ago. Pretty soon, that one lead turned into the only lead, and as Easter Sunday came and went without news, hope seemed to be running out fairly quickly. Out of pure desperation, I began work on a remake eyeballed from the existing screenshots, but since the dimensions had to be as accurate as possible, progress was very, very slow, eventually grinding to a complete halt. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Fast forward a few months, and I was on a side quest. There used to be a big archive of TTT maps, and it had gone lost, so I wanted to find it out of boredom or something. Discussing the topic of these lost maps with other people on the TTT Discord inevitably led back to 23rd Street. Did we ever find it? Was it in the archive? How that remake wasn't going? This caught Reiner's attention once again, and he still swore that 23rd Street was buried somewhere on his old laptop. But this time, he was actually at the place where his old laptop was stored for the week. So, in a few days, he'd take a memory stick to it and upload all the maps he could find from his old 2015 Gmod install. In the meantime, Yash took the opportunity to ask a few more people if they had the map lying around, including QE's old co-owner, who ended up unearthing just about every map other than 23rd Street. Yash also mentioned that he might actually have the map on his mum's old laptop, so there was another lead. For about a day, when he actually checked it and found zilch. I also picked up the pace on the remake whilst the momentum of this second hunt was still ongoing, and ended up recreating some of the office building. But pretty soon, the details became nearly impossible to make out from the screenshots, and soon enough, I'd also found myself waiting for the map dump from that old laptop. Then, on July the 16th, 2022, Reiner posted a directory listing of his old maps folder. So, here it is. After all that, what's it actually like? Well, unfinished, shockingly. There's a prison building that wasn't depicted in the screenshots, probably because it's missing a ceiling and a second floor, and also the cell doors don't work properly. There's also this missing custom texture on the restaurant, which is called Los Pollos. According to Nugget, we're probably not missing out on much, other than a low-effort Breaking Bad reference. There are also no cars to run you over, and you can just walk down the completely unclipped tunnels. But other than that, it seems like the map's pretty much intact in all of its insanely huge glory. Seriously, it's almost as wide as Waterworld, but also has an underground area to get lost in. The most interesting part of the map, in my opinion, is the weapon placements. As promised in the Reddit AMA, they're all located underground, but there's only 2 weapon spawns outside of this room. You have to go through this little obstacle course and back again in order to win a weapon. Seems simple enough. But imagine competing with 20 other players for a weapon on these tiny platforms, and suddenly it becomes a lot more stressful. To make matters worse, this room is also home to the map's only T-trap. At any point, traitors can activate this T button to completely seal the obstacle course room shut and flood it with gas, killing everyone inside. Insanely evil shit. Possibly the most evil traitor trap of all time. Everyone other than 2 lucky bastards have to go through this thing to get basic weapons, and at any point they can be completely trapped in with no chance of escape and certain death. Just like 67th Way, there's plenty of ways in and out of this underground area, plenty of physics props around to block cars with, if there were any to block, and perhaps most importantly, it's just got that 67th Way vibe to it. I don't know how to describe it, other than you can tell it was made by the same guy. So, it's been 2.5 years since the search for 23rd Street ended. It's been on the Steam Workshop ever since, so you might have seen it on some public servers, or even complained about its size and lack of weapons. You might also recognise it if you watch the Yogscast TTT games, although they ended up using an add-on to completely pepper the map with weapons when they played on it. You know what, fair enough. Let's be real, you never expected to hear about TTT Lost Media in your entire life. Don't worry, there's actually more where that came from. There's also plenty of Gmod Lost Media that you could be watching coverage of right now, if you know what I mean. But more than that, it's been nearly 12 years since Nugget stopped working on source maps entirely. So, what's he been up to since then? Well, for the most part, just going through life. He was in 8th grade when 67th Way was made. He still continued to play Gmod and TTT all the way up to around college, showing off the game that he used to play to his college friends at the time. Beyond school though, he became a software engineer and started making his first games around 2017. He has a pretty active GitHub page with a bunch of coding projects and games, but also his own website where he showcases the things posted to his GitHub along with a collection of pixel artworks that he's made. It's actually a really cool collection. I'll leave a link to his site in the description for you to have a ponder at. But amidst all these new works of his, tucked away in the About Me page, there's a mention of the game and the map that started it all.
Survive and help you fellas solve this case, but little they know I got plans to take all of them out in like 67 different ways. The deagle is steel, the shit could be real, you don't know which one of your dogs is a snake, but I ain't stopping till the body's dropping and the whole damn server is erased and sent to spectate.
All I can see is them orange dev textures, all I can see is them cars go by. Don't bring up no gosh damn traitor tester, I'll put that deagle right into your eye. Detective came over, said buddy why you wounded? I said well I've been introducing terrorists to my boom.